What's up guys, this is ScherBR talking, welcome back to my channel. On today's video, I'll be making a full review for the Ultra Deluxe Kihachi banner. This was a very powerful release that even got buffed in global, and Kihachi makes some fights super easy from now on, and I needed to get my tests before I could finally discuss how impactful this character can be in romancing SaGa universe. There is also Meythia, a support for Axe remembrance fights, and Seimei, a debuffer with a very strange gimmick. So let's go straight out to rsrs.xyz website and we'll start talking about Kihachi. I know you all want to know how good this character is, but you probably already saw my videos about Kihachi defeating many enemies. She is a powerhouse with 128 STR and 100% agility. She's fast enough to do the first blow. Her endurance is 74%, not very high, she's a little fragile, but her will is 85%, that is an okay value. None of the other status matter too much, she does have below average love and charisma. For the first passive, she has 40% damage increase at all times. She also starts the fight with 15 BP, allowing her to use her skill number 3 that I'll be discussing later, and also feels her own OG gauge on start. This is super important into nuking on turn 1. By the end of a turn, she also gets 25 points of Overdrive gauge. When you use a normal attack, you also get 25 points. So that theoretically means that you can get Kihachi into Overdrive every 2 turns if you want so. The second passive, when landing an Overdrive attack, she will always trigger Laceration. That lasts for 2 turns. But what exactly is Laceration? It's a very different type of debuff that decreases the weak defense of the enemy. Weak defense means that it's like the defense, but only when you are hitting a weak point. So, defense down works for all attributes. Weak defense down works only for the elements the enemy is already weak. Well, it will trigger on 37% chance, and it will decrease the defense of the enemy by 30%. That's pretty big, but there's a chance related. So you are applying a debuff to the enemy that's very similar to Sundred, but just for the element the enemy is weak to, and it only has a chance to trigger when you are attacking the enemy with weak attacks. Pretty specific, right? But since Kihachi actually attacks multiple times, this will trigger multiple times as well. Now, when landing a weak attack, she recovers 2 BP. And when landing an OD weak attack, that means that you are on Overdrive and you are hitting the weakness of your enemy, 8-fold dual blade will be activated 2 times using skill rank 1. Doesn't change anything. What is 8-fold dual blade? Her skill number 3. That's slash and cold, attacks 8 times with E power. It's like attacking 8 times with a normal attack. But using triple S weapons, she got 1 for free. And by inflicting Laceration, that will already decrease the enemy's defense if you are attacking the weak spot, damage will scale super high and you see very big numbers. But more about that later. Then she still has a 20% damage increase. Then when landing a weak attack, you increase it by another 20. And when attacked, damage will reduce it by 30% at all times. So by the end of it, we have an 80% damage increase. That is when attacking weak targets. When not attacking weak targets, just 60%. We start the fight with Overdrive. We have at least 5 per turn, or even more when you are attacking on Overdrive and you're chasing 2 times. You actually regain 9 BP since you get extra 6. And, well, she has 30% damage reduction all times. Very good combination of skills and passives. Now, the first skill is called Dual Lightning Blade. It attacks 2 times with E power and costs 2 BP. Damage will be slash and lightning. So, it's cheap, you feel more like you are attacking with an S power attack, but just 2 BP cost. She does have a similar skill, but different elements, called Dual Cold Blade from her S style. Instead of slash and lightning, it is slash and cold. And this can be interesting to inherit, and I'll be explaining more about it later. The second skill is awesome, Lightning Dual Slash. This one can only be used once per battle, and when the attack lands, grants the enemy Laceration. That's the same Laceration that you also get when you are attacking on Overdrive. So you can have 2 stacks of Laceration. That means that each hit has a 37% chance to trigger a 30% debuff. And once you do trigger, it will stack up to permanent in battle. That's right, the enemy will always have this laceration, and then your other characters will have the chance to apply weak defense down when they are attacking the weak spot. So, for boss fights, it's very nice to start using this so that you can actually take advantage with everyone else in the party, unless you want to kill boss in one turn or something similar. It's also worth to say that it's slash and lightning, meaning that if the enemy is only weak to lightning, you can start by using lightning dual slash, for example, on Overdrive, and then on the second time you get to Overdrive, you will have to use dual lightning blade to trigger the enemy weak spot. But then she would chase with slash and cold, so that even though she can do good damage versus lightning weak, her nuke is slash and cold. Then we have here the skill number 3, 8-fold dual blade, that we already discussed. 8 hits with E power that will just get stronger and stronger by the number of weak defense downs you apply. And it costs 15 BP, meaning that you can use this on turn 1. In JP you couldn't, it was just 14 BP on start, and their weak defense down was weaker as well, hence why Kihachi is even better here for us. So, let's say you are in a fight and you have people like Matcha. Matcha has this skill from her Perfector style called SaGa Magical Train that applies Sundered for 2 turns. Sundered will always apply defense down to the enemies of small effect when you hit them after you cast. That is also found on Creator. Creator has it on 2 turns with his Halloween style that you can inherit on his newest one if you want, or keep using the Halloween one. And then you have the skill called Creator's Flare that has it only for 1 turn. The good thing about having Sundered for 2 turns is that you can cast again on the second turn, and then your damage will skyrocket. But at least one of them will be nice enough for Kihachi so that she can increase her damage output on turn 1. You can also use people that can buff her STR. She scales super well from STR. You can also use the formation called Gear Guard Stance that will give her 70% STR buff, and she will always be on delay, meaning that your buffers will go before her, allowing her to be the last one to attack and do even higher damage. Some bosses can be defeated in 1 turn, sometimes in 2 turns. For 2 turns strategies, you have people like Labelle that can actually help her do a lot of damage. Why Labelle? She has Breezy Foot Bath that charges Overdrive Gauge of everyone besides her. She will also give attack boost, and she can do Breezy Foot Bath every 2 turns. For long fights or short fights, she helps. Another one that helps a lot is Barthelemy. Barthelemy latest style can also help her because he can actually use this skill Flame Show that gives 25 points of Overdrive Gauge that will speed up her OD generation, but it also increases OD damage and allows people to buff when they are on OD. Although not as good as Labelle in most scenarios, it can also be used together and increase damage output. But if you already have Labelle, you can run other characters like the latest Princess White Rose, because she also buffs more on Overdrive. She will be able to buff 2 times, all status with Brilliant Notes. A very similar way when you compare to Witch's Daughter, that can buff 2 times on Overdrive with her Sweet Smell. I believe that status buffs will help her much more, since the defense down, it's similar to giving her more damage passives, like also Morale Up, Attack Boost. Those increase damage, but not as much as the status buffs. But, well, those are the ways to increase her damage output by quite a lot. And in fights where you cannot win on turn 1, you open with Lightning Dual Slash to apply 2 lacerations, and then on the turn 2, if you use a Labelle, you would then use 8-fold Dual Blade if the enemy is weak to Slash, and then you have very high damage. Like stage 210 can be cleared in 2 turns if you are using the right squad. I mean, Spiral Corridor 210 and 190. A lot of stages become super easy, but the enemy needs to be weak to either slash, cold, or sometimes to lightning, but the damage output is much lower when we are just talking about lightning. So Kihachi is a powerhouse. She makes even nukers like Leon feel bad a little. He will need his newest style, Summer from JP, that can attack multiple times with all of his bullets since turn 1 to compete. But she obliterates everyone else's damage, and even for long fights. You can get a lot of BP because, just remember, she gets 9 back just by use of 8 Dual Blade. And on the next turn, if you use a normal attack, you already get another 5. Imagine, that's almost 15 already, and she will always have enough BP to keep using her very good skills. So, Kihachi has no competition. She's another type of level. We could say she's OP because it's easy to say that, but even then, she's higher than anyone else. Like I said, Dual Cold Blade can also be used to keep the cold element at all times, and the other skills don't matter too much because they are one skill for farming and the other one is for buffing, and although buffing STR is okay, she still gets much more benefit from using a real nuke. Kihachi has very good potential if you have gens and you want to make some challenges easy. Summon for her. But she's not exactly mandatory. You can still clear content without her. But some bosses are designed in a way that if the fight keeps on for too long, it will be harder and harder to defeat, like stage 220 from Spiral, where the enemies will keep casting defense ups and the damage decreases by quite a lot. But again, you'll always be able to clear with different characters. I did poop for Kihachi, and you will see more and more videos of her, but you will always see alternatives as well. But nonetheless, a very powerful unit that is worth to pull. Kihachi has a new style on JP that instead of being slash and cold is slash and lightning. She has a skill that can give her both hit up and defense up, can only be used once. She has an 8 hit attack, but different elements. She has this invincibility skill that will give her a chase either on weak or on overdrive with the same skill number 3 after she dies once. And after she dies once, she will get 50% damage reduction. And she already has at least one guarantee OD extra attack with the same 8 hit skill. She can perform better even. She even has an extra chase, but she needs to die once in a fight. And it's not that hard to apply that, but on the same time, you may want to have both Kihachis anyway. The next character is Meythia, and she's an axe user of the Earth element, although she does not have any Earth skill right now. She has 123% STR, okay. Endurance is 81% and will is 80. Well, just okay values, and her agility is pretty bad on just 84%. Her love is high because she can heal, and nothing else matters. On the first passive, by the start of a turn, she grants herself a heat up that can trigger 5 times per battle, reaching as much as 75% damage increase on turn 5. And when recovery actions are made, she grants the target heat up medium effect. She has an AoE heal that can heal the party, and that means that she will be able to give heat up increasing 10% each time for a max of 20% if you heal this 2 times. Then, when attacked, damage will be reduced by 25% at all times, and then another time by 30%. She has 5 EP per turn, and increases her damage output by another 30%. So, all in all, she has 105% damage increase, can reach 125 after healing 2 times. Skill number 1, Capricious Healing Next, a single target and costs 2 BP only, C power, and you will recover a random surviving ally HP by around 1,500. It can even be herself, you have no control over who she's healing, but since she is useful for remembrance, if she's healing the wrong person and not helping enough, you may just have to restart, and eventually RNG will be in your favor, if you care about that. Skill number 2, Charming Smile, it's a recovery, reviver, AoE spell that can be used 2 times per battle, does not sacrifice LP, and will revive and heal for at least, I believe, 1,800, but more usually. And she will grant a target this attack boost that will increase the damage potential by 25% on rank 1 or 30% on rank 99. It lasts for 3 turns, so Pretty cool effect, but you have to manually level up to get 5% extra. I don't think it's worth. And we have Boisterous Blade. This is the same skill that the first Darius has. Then it's a 3-hit attack with deep power, with Slash and Shadow. With triple S weapons, the damage will be very nice since it buffs STR by 25% on max level by each new hit. Since she has 5 EP per turn, she can actually just use a normal attack, then Boisterous Blade, and keep this cycle, or she can use Caspricious Healing Blade if you feel like you need to heal someone, or just keep the normal attack cycle and then eventually use Charming Smile. Just remember that Charming Smile will also give that heat up, and that can be very interesting depending on the fights. She does have Inheritance, but nothing here makes much sense because you do have Heartcracker being able to stun when you amplify, and stun can work on Kazinsi, and for Kazinsi fight, Axe users are usually weak, so Meythia really helps. But nothing else besides this point. Meythia is a placehold character for Remembrance. She will help a lot because this heal is awesome, especially if you didn't get, for example, Alnus, because Alnus can heal and give a shield with his mage version, although he does have this better style that can get better defenses if he's attacking on critical. And if you skip it as well, Ogniana, another healer, well, it's a very good pick to get Meythia. Even if you are, I don't know, maybe 5 multis away from a PT and you don't have much support on Remembrance, Meythia could help you. Just remember that this is an UDX banner, and UDX banners are pretty rare, and you won't see many reruns of these characters, not up till they are not as useful anymore. But overall, if you're just thinking about normal content, Meythia has no place since we have way too many other characters that offer much more. Because of that, Meythia only receives an SS Plus grade in the tier list and is pretty skippable besides just Remembrance fights. There is also no other version of Meythia on GP so far, so this is the last one. The last character is Seimei, and he's the only Platinum style. So, if you don't get him now, you can get him later. And he's a pretty gimmick style that has access to Shadow spells. His endurance is 77%, but his will is 103%. Pretty good value. His intelligence is 122, with an agility being 92%. I do believe that he could reach a higher agility to be useful, but the developers wanted him to be like this. Moving for passives, he reduces damage taken by 30% at all times, and by the start of a turn, he buffs his own will by 20%, and also buffs his own status elements resistance by 40%, or maybe 45, I don't really comprehend. By the end of a turn, he gets 2 extra BP, and he will recover his own HP by probably around 250. He then increases his damage output by 30%, and when landing an attack, he has a 37% chance to debuff the intelligence of an enemy by 15%. So, he does have very high sustain versus ailments, since he'll be buffing ailment resistance and also his own will. In some fights where the enemy buff breaks you on the start of turn, he will lose the will buff, but will keep the ailment resistance, still providing some support. But I wonder if his kit will allow you to fight hard challenges. Skill number 1 is called Withering Plus. It's a single target shadow spell that when the attack lands, it has a chance to debuff the STR and endurance of an enemy by up to 15%. It has B power and 3 BP cost, meaning that he can use it all the time and he will still have at least 2 BP extra. The skill itself is pretty good, but STR debuff is much better than the endurance debuff. The second spell, Talisman. This one is a full AoE shadow attack that has deep power, and it's not that strong, but it grants the enemy morale down medium, increasing the damage of them by 25%. It lasts for 2 turns, meaning that he will use 5 EP every 2 turns. You still have 5 to do something else. The third one, Phantom Haze. It's a full AoE attack with shadow, and it just has deep power, much like Talisman. But the cost is 9 instead of 5, much higher. And when the attack hits, it reduces all status by 35% on rank 1 or 40% on rank 99. That's extremely high, right? And it's not about a chance to debuff, it's a guarantee that it will debuff as much as 40% on max level. But there's something here. Of course, a platinum unit would not be so good. When the attack lands, it also grants the enemy this evil be gone. What is evil be gone? When the enemy attacks, it has a 25% chance to remove all the buffs applied to itself. One time, meaning that after it removes all the buffs applied by Seimei, it's gone. But man, 25% chance. Let's talk about bosses now. If a boss only attacks once or twice, it could be an okay skill to use. But with bosses attacking 4 times, 5 times, or even more, they will cleanse this midway. And when they cleanse and keep attacking, you're gonna see problems. Like, if they use an ailment skill after just removing the debuff, you will see everyone afflicted. So, not really safe to use. And also by debuffing as much as 40%, some bosses may get so irritated that they will cleanse via Defy Weakness anyway, right after or just before they start attacking. But some bosses use Defy Weakness by the end of a turn. But still, if they cleanse, this makes no sense. And another thing, if you land Phantom Haze and you get the First Diminution passive, you'll be debuffing intelligence by as much as 55% in a turn. And again, most bosses will hate this and use Defy Weakness, but in theory this could be nice. So what is Seimei doing? He is more of RNG based character that could be fun, but in all reality it's extremely hard to use. He does have an S style with access to Shrill. That is a sheep AoE skill that can debuff Will. Sometime, if you can apply ailments in a boss, debuffing Will with a sheep skill, it's okay. Then he does have this Ward of Evil that cleanses all ailments from the party, while also recovering HP by around 250. You could say that he could be useful for some remembrance fights that have ailment chances, but then he is from staves, and we have way too much support already. And his other skill, Raging Gust Plus, is just a nuke for single target, if you feel like using this. Only if you are bringing someone like Sheree and you want this one on it down, and then sometimes you can use something else. But in the end, this character is not good enough to be brought into fights that are real. It's just hypothetically good if all the stars align. You could say that he deserves an SS grade in the tier list now, when compared to old units, but eventually just dropping to SS minus and disappearing from the tier list, since there's not much reason to use him. There's no other future styles, so this guy here is not really important. You don't need to train him if you don't like. And now back to the banner image. Is this banner worth summoning for? Yes, it is. Kihachi is such a strong damage dealer that makes many fights a joke. And I will give this banner a Silver Plus award just because gold is meant for banners with 2 very useful units, and although Meythia will help a lot of people, it's all about Kihachi here, and she will drop in other banners in the future with bigger value. But how much time it will take for this to happen? At least 6 months, when she will face lots of competition with other damage dealers. But even then, Kihachi is a very strong character and deserves the award, and is the strongest one in the game right now, changing how we approach hard challenges to try to nuke as fast as possible. Meythia will be useful for some, but not really worth the shot, and Seimei is just good in theory, but bad in practice. And that's my opinion. I pulled it for Kihachi, got her. If you haven't already and you want to get the character, it's safe, but there's also banners coming up and you can wait to see what's next. With all that said, this is my opinion. What is yours? Please say here in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't. And if you want to support the channel, we have links on the description. I hope to see you soon in the next video or live stream. Bye.